Have you ever stood in the baby food aisle, staring at all those colorful jars and tiny containers, and thought, how on earth am I supposed to choose the right one? You're not alone. Whether you're a grandparent stepping back into baby care after a few decades, or maybe just someone who loves being involved in a little one's life, the world of baby feeding has changed quite a bit over the years. It's no longer just about applesauce and rice cereal. Now, it's about giving babies the right start with foods that help them grow healthy and strong from the very first bite. And I get it, it can feel overwhelming. You want to help, to guide, maybe even babysit once in a while, and you want to be sure you're offering something that's not just safe, but actually good for them. After all, the choices we make for babies in those early months can shape their eating habits, their development, even their immune systems for years to come. So today, let's talk about just that, the best first foods for babies and what to avoid. We're going to keep it simple, practical, and straight from the heart. Because when it comes to feeding a baby, sometimes all it takes is knowing a few smart tips to make all the difference. Now, let's start with a favorite that's been gaining a lot of love lately, avocados. Yes, that creamy green fruit you might be mashing onto toast or mixing into your salad is actually one of the best first foods for babies. It's soft, easy to mash with a fork, and full of healthy fats that help brain development. What's great about avocado is that it doesn't need any cooking, seasoning, or even fancy preparation. Just scoop out a small portion, mash it well, and offer a tiny spoonful. If it's your grandbaby's first time trying solids, they might make a funny face. That's normal. It takes time to adjust to new textures. But over time, avocados can help babies get used to the idea of real, whole foods, not just the sweet stuff. Speaking of sweet stuff, let's talk bananas. Now here's another winner. Bananas are naturally sweet, soft, and loaded with potassium, which supports healthy muscle and nerve function. They're also incredibly convenient. No peeling, boiling, or blending, just mash a little with a fork and you're ready to go. And here's something special, offering fruits like bananas early on, before introducing sugary snacks or juice, helps babies develop a taste for naturally sweet foods rather than overly processed ones. It sets a healthy pattern that can last a lifetime. But now, here's where things can get a little tricky. Because while fruits like bananas are great, not every soft, sweet thing is a good idea for little ones. A lot of folks still think rice cereal should be the first food for a baby, probably because that's how it was done decades ago. But here's what's changed. Many pediatricians today suggest holding off on rice cereal, especially the plain white kind. Why? Well, for one, it's low in nutrients. And some rice cereals have been found to contain trace amounts of arsenic, yes, even the baby ones. It doesn't mean they're poisonous, but it does raise concerns about offering it too often, especially when there are more nutritious options available. Instead of cereal, more parents and grandparents are now starting babies off with real, whole foods that give more than just calories. And that brings us to another favorite, sweet potatoes. Now there's a food many of us grew up with, right? But sweet potatoes aren't just comforting and delicious, they're packed with vitamin A, which helps babies develop strong eyesight and a healthy immune system. When cooked until soft and mashed smooth, sweet potatoes make a naturally sweet and creamy meal that babies usually love right from the start. A small spoonful, served warm, not hot, is often all it takes to get a little smile from the high chair. You might be wondering, but what about allergies? Aren't some foods risky? That's a great question, and it's one that's changed quite a bit over the years. You see, there used to be a belief that we should delay foods like eggs, peanuts, or even strawberries to prevent allergies. But now, the guidance is different. In fact, introducing small amounts of potential allergens earlier, under the guidance of a doctor, of course, may actually reduce the chance of developing allergies later on. That doesn't mean you need to rush into peanut butter tomorrow, but it does mean we shouldn't be afraid of whole foods, especially when they're offered safely and in the right way. Now before we wrap up this part, there's one more thing I want to mention, and that's water. It might sound odd, but babies under 6 months old usually don't need water at all. Their little kidneys aren't ready for it, and breast milk or formula gives them all the hydration they need. Once they start solids, a tiny sip of water here and there can be fine, especially during meals, but it's important not to replace milk with water too early. It's something a lot of people don't realize, especially if we're used to thinking of water as the healthiest thing we can offer. So, we've looked at some wonderful choices to start with: soft, nourishing foods like avocado, banana, and sweet potato, and we've touched on why rice cereal might not be the best first pick anymore. And of course, we've talked about the importance of being mindful about allergens and liquids. Whether you're preparing a snack for your grandbaby or just supporting your adult children as they navigate parenting, these little bits of wisdom can go a long way. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about starting with intention and love. Because every spoonful we offer a baby is a chance to nourish not just their bodies, but their curiosity, their habits, and their future health. Now, once you've introduced those gentle, naturally soft foods like avocado and banana, you might feel ready to try something a little more savory, and that's where peas come in. Yes, simple green peas. They may be small, but they're packed with fiber, vitamins, and plant-based protein. And here's the thing, they're often overlooked because people assume babies won't like their slightly earthy taste. But offering vegetables early on, even the ones that aren't sweet, can actually help shape a baby's taste preferences in a more balanced, healthy way. You don't have to do anything complicated. Just cook the peas until they're very soft, then mash or puree them. If they're a bit too thick, you can thin them out with a little breast milk, formula, or even a bit of water once the baby is older. Some babies might push peas away the first few tries, and that's perfectly normal. Just like adults, babies need time to adjust to new flavors. The key is to keep offering, gently and without pressure. Over time, they learn that not every food needs to be sweet to be good. And speaking of protein, that brings us to an option that might surprise you: lentils. That's right, those tiny legumes that you might toss into soups or stews are actually one of the most nourishing plant-based proteins you can offer a baby. They're full of iron, which babies start needing more of around 6 months of age. In fact, iron is one of the most important nutrients at this stage, and many first foods lack it unless they're carefully chosen. Lentils are a great way to get ahead of that. Now, lentils do need to be cooked very well, soft enough to mash easily with the back of a spoon. Red lentils work particularly well because they cook faster and become quite soft. You can offer them plain or blended with a bit of vegetable puree like carrots or squash for extra flavor. Just remember to skip the salt. Babies' kidneys aren't ready for added sodium yet, and they don't miss it. Their taste buds are so fresh, they don't need any extra seasoning to enjoy the food. But while we're talking about things to leave out, we should also touch on a few foods that are best avoided altogether in the first year, not just because they aren't nutritious, but because they can actually be harmful. One of the most important ones is honey. This one surprises a lot of people, especially folks who grew up with the idea that a little honey in a bottle could soothe a baby's cough or help them sleep. But honey, even just a little, can carry bacteria that can lead to infant botulism, a very serious illness for babies under 1 year old. It doesn't affect older children or adults the same way, which is why we might forget it can be risky. So it's best to wait until after the baby's first birthday before even thinking about adding honey to their food. Another one that tends to sneak in without much thought is juice. We often think of juice as healthy, it's fruit, right? But for babies, especially under 12 months, juice adds a lot of sugar without much nutritional benefit. It can upset their stomachs, affect their tiny teeth, and even lead to poor eating habits if it's given often. Whole fruits like banana or pear offer fiber and nutrients, but juice strips most of that away. If you're ever tempted to give juice, it's better to just offer water, or better yet, keep sticking with those soft mashed fruits that offer real benefits. Now, let's take a moment to talk about how babies are introduced to these foods. Because it's not just what you feed a baby, it's how the experience is shaped. Mealtime is about more than just nutrition. It's also about connection, exploration, and learning. When a baby sees your face, hears your voice, and feels safe and relaxed, they're much more likely to try something new. That's why it helps so much to sit down with them, maybe even let them touch the food a little, even if it gets messy. Those messy little hands reaching for mashed banana or trying to grab the spoon, that's part of the process. It's how babies start building independence and confidence with food. Some parents and grandparents also worry about choking, which is a very real concern, but it's important to know the difference between gagging and choking. Gagging is part of learning. It's how babies figure out how to move food around in their mouths. Choking is silent and dangerous, but it's rare when food is offered in the right texture and size. Soft, mashed, or finely pureed foods are safest in the early days, and always supervised. And if you're ever unsure, a quick refresher on infant CPR or a baby first aid course can give a lot of peace of mind. As babies grow and become more curious, they'll start to reach for more textures and different tastes. And that's where your calm presence, your encouragement, can mean so much. They trust you. If they see you smiling, showing interest in the food, and offering it with patience, it becomes a shared experience, not just a task. Even if you're not the one doing the daily feedings, you can help build those healthy food memories every time you're with them. And sometimes, that's the most powerful thing of all, not just feeding the baby, but feeding the relationship. Being part of that journey. Sharing your own stories. When your mom was your age, she loved mashed sweet potatoes too. It sounds simple, but it means everything. And as those little taste buds start to develop and the baby begins to eat with more interest, there's one more beautiful food to bring into the mix, one that might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but offers incredible nourishment. That's egg, specifically, a well-cooked egg yolk. Now, I know this might raise some eyebrows, especially if you remember the days when eggs were on the maybe wait list for babies. But times have changed, and so has the science behind feeding. Egg yolks are rich in choline, which is vital for brain development. They also offer protein, iron, and healthy fats, all in a form that's soft and easy to blend. You'll want to cook the egg fully, of course, no runny yolks for babies, and mash the yolk well with a little water, breast milk, or formula to make it smooth and creamy. The white part of the egg, which is where allergic reactions are more likely, can usually be added a bit later, again, based on your doctor's guidance. But starting with just the yolk can be a great and gentle way to introduce more variety into their meals. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Babies don't need a huge variety of foods all at once. In fact, it's often better to go slow. Offering one new food at a time, every few days, gives their little digestive systems time to adjust. It also helps you notice if a food doesn't sit quite right or causes any kind of reaction. It's not about rushing to build a big menu, it's about building a strong, healthy foundation one spoonful at a time. And it's not just the food, it's the rhythm of the meals. The calm tone you use when you feed them, the way you sit together and share the moment, the way you respond when they spit something out or wrinkle their nose. These little things shape the way babies feel about eating, and even about connection. If you think back to your own childhood, you might remember a favorite meal, not just for the taste, but for who made it, or how you felt when you ate it. That kind of comfort starts early, often with moments just like this. So if you're someone who's helping raise a baby right now, maybe you're a grandparent, an aunt, a friend, or even a neighbor who helps out, your presence matters more than you probably realize. You don't have to be a nutritionist or a chef. You just have to care, to be curious, and to be open to learning what babies need today, even if it's a little different from how it was done years ago. That willingness to grow, to adapt, to offer love in a new way, that's something truly special. And maybe that's the most comforting part of all this. Because yes, the baby food landscape has changed. There are new recommendations, new research, new do's and don'ts. But at the heart of it, the purpose is still the same, to help a child grow strong, to help them feel safe, and to show them, from the very beginning, that food is about nourishment and love. If you ever feel unsure, just come back to the basics. Whole, natural foods. Soft textures. No salt, no added sugar, no rush. Start with one food at a time, keep the portions tiny, and watch with wonder as this little human learns how to eat, how to enjoy. It really is one of life's small miracles. And remember, the best thing you can offer, beyond the avocado or the mashed peas, is your presence. Babies don't just thrive on calories, they thrive on connection. That calm, gentle voice as you say, "Here comes the spoon." That steady hand as you hold the bowl. That quiet joy when they finally open their mouth for the next bite. These are the moments they may not remember with words, but they'll carry them deep in their sense of safety and trust. So as you go forward, whether you're preparing a tiny meal or just learning how best to support your family, know that you're doing something wonderful. You're helping give a baby the healthiest, happiest start possible. And that's no small thing. If you found this helpful, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you've tried some of these foods with your grandchild or helped a friend who's just starting solids with their baby. Share your stories in the comments below. It's amazing how much wisdom we all carry from our different experiences. And if you're enjoying this kind of helpful, heart-centered content, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. We've got plenty more tips and real conversations coming your way. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Here's to the babies we love and the beautiful job of helping them grow.